What's going on, everybody? All right, today I decided I was at least going to start the process of getting these fender flares ready to install on the Jeep. Now, there is something called welting, or at least that's what they called it, that I have to install on the inside, and that's what I plan on doing right now. Not sure if I will get the fender flares installed today, but I do at least plan on getting them ready and maybe get them put on tomorrow. As you know, if you own a Jeep, you got job security. Hence the t-shirt today. But let's get the camera turned around and I'll show you how to put this welting on. I really kind of feel like paying $700 for fender flares, they probably should have came ready to install. That's a little bit of a bummer for that much money, but it didn't look like a real difficult process, so I guess we're fixing to find out. Okay, so when you order these, of course you'll get the flares in the box, and then you'll get another box inside that. And inside that box, there'll be some pieces of double-sided tape, and then this stuff they call welting. It's a rubber seal that just goes along the sides of the fender, and you have to install it around it. Now, like I said, I kind of feel like this should have came on it myself. That's just me personally. Doesn't look, like I said, it doesn't look hard to install. It looks pretty easy. I'm assuming it goes this way. There is a ridge right here on one side. I'm assuming that goes out towards the fender and our fender flare. And we're just going to rub that around like that. Now, the first thing I'm actually going to do is, this is actually a little bit dusty, and I'm sure this is too. So before I install any kind of double-sided tape, of course, I'm going to clean it with alcohol. Now, per the video that they did not say to clean it with alcohol, but I never install any kind of double-sided tape or decal or anything without first rubbing some alcohol on to make sure that there is nothing that dirt-wise or something like that, or grease, that would make the double-sided tape not adhere to what I'm trying to get it to adhere to. And it will go completely all the way around the fender flare, so you gotta do the whole thing. And then this, like I said, I'm gonna put this down that way. So I guess I'll be cleaning the inside of this. I guess I should probably double check the directions before I do that. Okay, I have to say I looked through the directions and I really didn't see anywhere it just said put on welting. So I'm going to assume that this doesn't go this way, that it looks better that way. So that's actually the way I'm going to put it on, with the rib out. Again, I'm just going to go over this real quick here, just to make sure there's nothing that would stop it from adhering to the tape, because this is dusty. These did come fairly dusty, so I do want to get these pretty clean before I do anything else. It's really flexible, so it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, now let's give you this big jumbled up double-sided tape here. That actually even came unstuck when I pulled it. Let's see here. They do have some pre-cut pieces that go around corners. They don't really show you which piece goes where. It's kind of like a trial and error thing. Again, for $700, I would expect Weston to do a little better than that. It's not even stuck really good to the tape. These were the best looking fender flares that I seen, that I like the best. Those two pieces are the same, these two pieces. So I'm assuming I used one for this and one for the other one. And then there's two pieces of this, but it's all on the same piece of white backing, so we can't take it apart. So that looks like that might go there. That looks like that probably goes right there. And this piece is actually cut right, it looks like. Looks like it's gonna line up pretty well. You just put this in between the holes. You'll see there's holes in the flares, and you just put this in between it. You may have to trim it, but this one went pretty good. I'm going to trim just a little bit off the end right here. And I have some scissors for that. Right like it right there. This one, on the other hand, going around this hole, there are some pieces we're going to have to cut because there's 2 holes right here. So I am going to have to actually cut that in between there. So let's just go ahead and do that now before we even get started. Okay, now we got it all on and all pushed down good, everything's stuck good. We need to remove all the red tape from the backing of this double side tape. There we go, it's all pulled off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start from the front right here and go all the way around this. And once I get all the way around, then I'll come back and actually cut the holes out for the holes, for the screws and stuff like that. I'm actually going to use a razor blade for this part and just cut off the back side right here. Right like that right there. And you can see that hole right there is exposed now. And we're good to go. I'll have to do the same thing with every hole around it. And then at the very end, over here on this side right here, you'll have to trim all this off to make it nice and neat looking. There we go. Right like that right there. And now it should be ready to install. You can see that rubber that goes around it right here, or that rubber piece, the seal that goes around it. And now it's ready to install. You just have to do the other one the same way, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that one, then we'll be back. Okay, so once you have all your molding on and everything like that, you'll need to put on this light. This light goes in here. It does come with 2 screws, but you won't use those 2. So what you need to do is fish the white and black wire down through here and then just attach the light on the bracket. Now to do so, it comes with these little bitty Phillips head screws. Just drop them down from the front. Now these are LEDs. A little lock washer on the back with a little bitty nut. Same with the other side. Little bitty lock washer, little bitty nut. This nut is a 7mm. So what you'll need to do is just take a ratchet and set it on the back, then take a Phillips head screwdriver, snug it up from the front, like so. It should look like that when you get it done. Now I'm a little bit picky. There are some of these letters that can be read if they're upside down or not, and I don't want that upside down. So I'm actually going to make it where those can actually sit up right. Next, you'll need 2 short hex head 10mm bolts, 2 lock washers which go on the bolts first, and then 2 nuts. And what you do is you stick this up from the back side. The bolts go in from the outside in. Snug up the washer. Do the same on the other side. I do want to say you need to pull this all the way up as far as you can get it. And I did one already, and it's almost like you need about 4 hands to snug this thing down and get up there all the way. Like I said, this is a 10mm. I'm using a 10mm ratchet wrench. Okay, now we can snug it up. Should be up good up against it. I don't think it'll move now. We'll just need to finish tightening it up. Once you have it tightened up, you're ready to put it on. Okay, these factory fender flares are pretty easy to get off. You have to take off this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, this bolt. There's a bolt up in here and a bolt back there. So there's only 6 bolts, and there's pops on it that pop off. So let me go ahead and take these 6 bolts out, and I'll show you how to pop these off. Okay, now that you have all 6 bolts taken out, they are 10 millimeters, if you need to know that. Just grab hold of the fit. Now, one last thing, well, I almost forgot to do this. I did forget to do it on the other side. We'll need to unplug our factory light right here. And then where this is at, it's a little bit stiff. And then there's actually a plug up in here that you need to actually pop loose with just a trim tool remover. It's a little bit difficult to get into up in here. There we go. Now we should be free. Pop them loose. It'll sound like you're breaking it. Most of the clips will break whenever you take these off. Not a huge deal, but they will break. It's not like I'm ever going to be putting those back on. Now, to get these out, you can't just pop them out or like break them off. But I have actually found it's not that difficult to actually just squeeze in on them and remove them. This one back here is still really difficult because I can't see it. There we go. They just have tabs on the side right here to squeeze them in and they pop right out. Okay, now that we have the fender flare off, there's an assortment of bolts we'll need. There's one large one and a nut with a washer we're going to put on first. And then you have several of these Allen head bolts that are really a pain to get in. And then you have a smaller hex head bolt. And then you have an assortment of lock washers and regular washers and nuts. So, and then they also send you an Allen key, and actually I use this on the other one, but I'm hoping to have another option to put this one on, because I put the like I said, I put the passenger side one on just to see if there was an easier way to do it. You will also need oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, there's an inner piece here that goes on in the back, but you will probably also need like a ratchet, possibly with a 13 millimeter to tighten this down. Then you're also going to need a 10 millimeter wrench and a 10 millimeter backup wrench. I use that a lot. And then, like I said, one of these Allen keys. I prefer to use a ratchet wrench. It made life a little bit easier. It was still aggravating. Once it's all said and done, you will need some terminal connectors to splice the wire for the light. I also have some shrink wrap to shrink that with, of course, some kind of crimper and wire cutter. And that, I think that was all I used, besides like some cutters and zip ties to kind of make the wire look a little neater. So let's go ahead and as depressing as this is, let's go ahead and try to get this thing on. I want to show you one trick I'm hoping to work before we get started. Okay, so I'm hoping this little ratchet right here will help me get in to these hex head bolts, because I had to use this, and if I put that in there, it's going to be about the same. You can't get anything real long in here like a screwdriver or something, so I'm going to have to use something like this, and I just hope it works. But that's the trick I'm going to try to use. Okay, time to start the agonizing install of this fender flare. Now, the first thing I did was go ahead and unhook the negative battery cable, because we will have to cut this wire right there to hook up the light in this fender. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put this screw in right here, this bolt in right here. Make sure everything's lined up, and it's not. There we go. Now we got it lined up. Now there's a little bitty hole up in here to fit this nut up in. I just dropped it. And you can barely get your finger up in there. The good part about this is, and there's a washer on the bottom of this bolt. The good thing about this is, once you get up in there, you don't need a backup wrench to tighten this, or at least I didn't on the other side. So that's how we're going to get started. Now we have to start putting in those hex head screws over there into each one of these little holes. And you can see, like right here and right here, I can't even get my finger up in behind this right here. You actually have to put the nut on the back of a wrench, a boxed in wrench, to hold it in up in there. So it can be a pain in the hind end to get that on. But that's what we're going to do. Okay, so the first one goes right back up in here. It's in the very front. So what you need to do is you'll put a lock washer on first. Then you'll put the actual washer over it like this, and that's the way they'll all go. It goes right in behind this. Let's see if I can find where that starts. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get to because there's a wire right there. It's really hard to do with the camera because the camera's kind of where I need to be. All right, found it. Now if I can just get it started is the kicker. There we go. If you lift up on it a little bit, it's a little easier. I guess it was kind of in a bind. I want to get this one down as far as I can possibly get it, because that's kind of a pain in the butt to get to later to finish tightening it down. So there's your first one. So like I said, every one after this will get a washer, or a lock washer, then a regular washer, and a nut goes on the back side. And that's the way you'll do every one from here on out. Now I'm not going to show you me doing each one of these. I'm going to show you the hard one and how I do it, because it's pretty aggravating. But from here on out, I'm just going to put these in. And then like I said, once I get to this one back here that's hard, I'll turn the camera back on and show you how I get that one in. And then I'll show you how the back goes in, because there's a plate that goes back here in the back. Okay, so now I've got all these in through here. And I'm at this one right here. You may have to push up on it just a little bit to get it in place. But here comes the hard part. I'm actually wearing a headlamp to kind of help me line this up. And I'm just putting it in a boxed in wrench. And when you stick it up in here, you kind of have to slam it against the side. And then just feel around till you get it in. Oh, it moved on me. I thought I had it. Actually, I do. This side went in way easier than the other side. I will say that. It took me forever. Maybe it's just because I can use my left hand for the back up here or whatever. But that side went in way easier than the other side did. Thank goodness. This started. So now we just have one here like regular, and then we have that plate, and I'll show you how to put that plate on if we get to that part. Okay, time to put in this back plate. And I want to tell y'all that they actually shorted me a couple of these little bitty small lock washers. Now luckily I'm a hoarder, and I had some of those. So don't ever throw anything away, you may need it. And to my wife that tells me I should throw everything away, haha. Needed it. But this little plate goes back here in the back. Now let me show you. There is a little indention back here, and this little groove goes in that dention, so it goes toward the front on both sides. And you can feel it when it locks in. And this is just like the other one. The top bolt actually has, you know, the bolt, the washer, the lock washer, then regular washer, and then it just gets the nut on the back. And I actually think I missed that plate right there. A little bit hard to, there we go, now it's in it. Make sure you go through the plate. It's easy to miss because you really can't see it, so it's kind of a blind fit. Okay, time for the bottom one. The bottom one gets the hex head bolt, the longer one, with a washer, and it goes through the bottom, also through the plate. Then it gets a washer on the back side and a nut. And I want to say that they sent me 2 extra flat washers and not enough of the lock washers. Now this one doesn't take a lock washer, but it will go right here in the bottom. Make sure that you go through the plate, like I said. It's through the plate. then a washer, and then the nut on the back of that, and then we just have to tighten everything down. Okay, the trick I was talking about, taking your little Jeep tool, it actually will fit up into each one of these. That one's gonna be a little tight. I may have to use the actual ratchet on that. I may be able to get into it with the Jeep tool. That one fits, that one fits, that one fits. Most of these I'll be able to get with the Jeep tool and not the Allen wrench, which is awesome because that Allen wrench takes forever. So there's a little trick. Most of these you can get to with your little Jeep tool. I did have this bit. It is a 5/32 that fits these, and your Jeep set won't have that. You'll have to have one of these. But then you can just tighten all these down, and that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm not gonna make you watch that. I'm just gonna go through and make sure all these are tight. Okay, time to finish this up. Everything's tightened down. You can see it's on there good and everything. Now what we'll need to do now is get rid of this plug right here, because we actually have to install these lights. Now one thing I want to say is I watched the video on how to install these, and they said on their video to connect the black wire, well, depending on what Jeep you got, connect the black wire with the black wire and the white wire with the white wire. And I will tell you that is not how my Jeep is. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of this sticking out here like this in case I ever have to put the factory flares back on it. I will keep this plug so I can just resplice that. If you cut it too short, you won't be able to resplice it later. There's plenty enough wire in here to actually still zip tie this and everything. So what you'll need to do now is take your strippers, strip you off the wires off of these. Yeah, mine had to have the black wire to the white wire and the white wire to the black wire. I don't know why, but that's just the way mine worked. I actually hooked it up the way they told you to do it to start with, and that wasn't the way it worked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw my shrink wrap over this right here, and then just crimp everything down. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do is check this to make sure it works. I'll actually point you up so you can see too. And then all I'm going to do is just, shrink wrap this, put it back in the womb, put some electrical tape around it, and then just zip tie it up. So I won't make y'all watch me do that, but that's just finishing touches. So let's see if this side works. We'll have to put our battery cable back on. And moment of truth. There you go. You can see it's on. Works perfect. That is the complete install of these. I want to say that this side wasn't as bad as the other side. I could get to the bolts better. I guess it was just because I'm right-handed and it made it easier for me to do. I forgot to tell y'all, there's one bolt right here that you will have to tighten down. I almost forgot to tighten this bolt down right here. It's a 13 millimeter. You'll need a 13 millimeter backup wrench. I'll go ahead and tighten that down as well. I told you I tightened all these down. I'm glad I felt that. Don't forget to tighten this bolt down here, and then you're completely done. Again, this side was much easier. I want to say that little ratchet that I got out of the Jeep kit made it way, way easier than this side. I was pretty irritated putting this side in. Now, I'll add some pictures at the end after I get all this buttoned up and zip tied, and I'm going to go ahead and put that inner fender back in, and I'll take some pictures and throw it at the end of everything done. This isn't a bad install. I did have to modify that inner fender, so if you want to use those inner fenders, I'll try to remember to link that video at the end so you can go back and see how I actually fit that inner fender to this fender flare, because I did want to use those. There is a little bit of a gap, but that's fine with me. I don't think that's going to be any kind of major cause for concern. It's sturdy in there. It's not going anywhere. And if there is any kind of problems or anything, I'll let y'all know. I'll link Extreme Terrain at the end of the video. That's where I bought these fender flares from. I appreciate y'all watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.